inside the lost cave world of the Amazon's Tepui Mountains. Can you imagine exploring a world totally different to our own? Could you picture a place surrounded by giant cliffs, dense with thick jungle shrubbery, existing high up in the clouds? You might be surprised to learn that you do not have to imagine. What we are describing are known as the Tepui, giant tabletop mesas found in South America that are a treasure trove of discovery. These giant, flat mountain ranges shoot up from the middle of the Amazon basin, and their name Tepui means House of the Gods in their native tongue of the Pemen people, the indigenous group who inhabit the Gran Sabana. But now, scientists are finally exploring these mysterious and monolithic mountains and are revealing a hidden world beneath their crust. It is in large part to the work of speleologist Francesco Sauro of the University of Bologna in Italy, who has led multiple expeditions to the region to learn more about these beautiful ancient mountains. In January 2022, Sauro and his team completed a 40-day-long expedition to previously unexplored caves within the Tepui. Not only are these Tepui hard to access on their own, but the caves within them stand to be some of the last unexplored caves on Earth. The team's focus was on the Tepui known as Imawari Yeta in Venezuela. The cave system is known to have at least 22 kilometers of tunnels beneath the surface and is currently the largest known example of its kind. If all of this was not amazing enough, seeing the cave systems themselves will really take your breath away. With a presence almost like that of some alien world, the Tepui caves are a true spectacle. The cave walls typically display a light pink color, meanwhile water that runs through is colored red thanks to material present in the cave's streams. They are a completely different world, says Sauro, who has seen the caves firsthand. Speleothems are what we call stalactites and stalagmites, and those in the Tepui are stunning. How they came to possess such peculiar billowing shapes is still unknown to scientists. Many of these strange formations can only be found in quartzite caves, specifically when microorganisms affect their shape. These Tepui are also very well insulated from the outside world, effectively creating an isolated organic petri dish for scientists to research and analyze. In fact, it was only in 2012 that Sauro's team discovered a mineral named rosiantonite, as well as bacteria and blind cavefish. These specific caves are believed to be incredibly old, perhaps tens of millions of years, and it is because of this unknown that Sauro and his team have already begun to plan future expeditions to learn more. Amazon activists mourn the passing of Man of the Hole, the last of his tribe. Brazil has some of the last remaining fully indigenous tribes in the world. These tribes are preserved in their own world, away from our highly technical modern society. One such tribe was the tribe of the Man of the Hole. In the Rondônia state, on the Tanaru land, the tribe lived and slowly depleted in population as the decades passed. The final and last member of this tribe, the aforementioned Man of the Hole, was found dead inside a hammock this August. FUNAI, the Brazilian organization tasked with protecting indigenous lands and tribes, keeps tabs on these places and individuals from a distance to observe them and ensure their safety. The tribal man obtained his title as the Man of the Hole due to the countless deep holes he had often been seen digging. It is thought he passed away from natural causes at the estimated age of 60, with no evidence to suggest it was anything else. The Man of the Hole was thought to have lived in complete and utter isolation for at least 26 years without a single companion or friend to keep him company. According to Research and Advocacy Director for Survival International, Fiona Watson, no outsider knew this man's name or even very much about his tribe, and with his death, the genocide of his people is complete. Now we may never know the truth about this ancient tribe. Their customs and culture are lost forever. Greedy ranchers slaughtered most of the man's tribe in the 1970s. The ranchers were looking to expand their land. Only he and 6 other tribe members survived this carnage, but in 1995, illegal miners invaded their area and took the lives of the remaining 6, leaving him as the tragic sole survivor. Outside communication was attempted by organizations trying to reach out to him, but these attempts were returned with understandable aggression given that his only experiences with outsiders were brutal. The man set traps and aimed weapons at those attempting to reach out to him. Survival International employee Sarah Schenker stated, "Rejecting contact with outsiders was the man in the hole's best chance of survival." According to Schenker, he was the last of his tribe, and so that is one more tribe made extinct. Not disappeared, as some people say. It's much more active and genocidal a process than disappearing. Although the tribe is now gone, activists are calling for action and lands with remaining indigenous tribes to be made permanently protected. The best thing we can do for the lost tribe and the man in the hole now is to remember them and mourn their passing, but also to ensure that such things do not happen to future tribes. Mount Vesuvius eruption turned man's brain to glass. Perhaps one of the world's most famous volcanoes is that which destroyed Pompeii, Mount Vesuvius. This volcano has made a mark for itself as a legend and hasn't been categorized as a supervolcano, despite its significant impact upon the world and our history. The archaeological discoveries that have been made since Pompeii are momentous and groundbreaking, and now, 2 millennia later, more information continues to be pushed forth. Researchers uncovered the remains of who is thought to be potentially a sole victim of the lethal eruption. The man lost his life, alone, face down on his stomach, having thought to have been asleep, leaving him unable to flee. We are now far from 79 AD, but this Italian research team has discovered that there has been more left behind than the bones. The heat of the eruption, according to these researchers, has seemingly turned the brain of the victim into glass. Research published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2020 laid out the details of this finding, with shards of black, solid matter having been found on the victim's skull. This material then underwent a process called vitrification. This process involves liquid cooling down incredibly fast when there is not any ice crystal formation present. This results in a solution that eventually hardens, forming an amorphous glass. Pier Pablo Petrone, a forensic anthropologist at the University of Naples, commented, "It's the very first time that vitrified brain remains have been found. This unique preservation of his brains could be due to the isolated nature of his departure from life. Most of those nearby resided in an ancient seafront town 11 miles north of Pompeii. Many of these victims lost their lives in the waterfront chambers across the Gulf of Naples because of the initial surge of fine ash. This individual, however, seemed to be much further from the coast, placing him much closer to Mount Vesuvius. The research seems to suggest that he had been a casualty in the first pyroclastic surge, which is the first hit of fluid mass, usually made up of gas and rock fragments too. These are similar to a pyroclastic flow, but typically contain a higher amount of gas compared to that of rock. In the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, with the pyroclastic flow, the town reached a staggering 968 degrees Fahrenheit. The victim was later covered by the volcanic rock that flooded the town. The man is thought to have been a guard for the college, and to have been the only victim of the eruption to have lost his life inside. Research has estimated he was around 25 years old at the time of the eruption, and his bones were found by archaeologists excavating a structure that belonged to the College of the Augustas in the 1960s. Despite us knowing of his remains since the 1960s, we didn't know much more about his loss of life until decades later, when in the October of 2018, Petrone made a trip to Herculaneum, the town that suffered the eruption. Petrone said, "I saw something shining inside the head," and continued to elaborate, explaining that these had been what he described as glassy black fragments. Even after seeing many other victims of the Mount Vesuvius eruption, this was not something he had observed before, leading him to believe this was from the brain. The next step following this discovery was to test the unknown materials. These were conducted by Piero Pucci, a biochemist who works at the Center for Genetic Engineering in Naples. Following this next step in the analysis, he found that there were plenty of fatty acids within this material, aligning with those that we find within human hair. Unfortunately, despite the match, at this stage, this was still nothing more than a theory, as this fatty acid is present in other animals and some vegetables too. Therefore, the presence of these acids alone is not enough to definitively confirm this is a brain made into glass. However, in an article published in 2020, Petrone Pucci and their colleagues were able to conclude that this was brain tissue, thanks to the presence of other proteins, common in the brain too, exclusively found around the skull. It's very rare for brain tissue to be preserved, and when it is, it's rarely seen in this form. Petrone and his team's discovery is the first time we have seen any sort of brain tissue, human or otherwise, preserved as glass. This is a revolutionary discovery, showcasing a form of preservation that up until now we did not know was possible. But what are your thoughts on these amazing discoveries? Be sure to let us know in the comment section below and help us grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.